In 1492, one man sailed west into an empty ocean, chasing a shortcut to Asia. He was hunting for China. Instead, he collided with a world Europe didn't know existed. To see why, you first have to see what Europe wanted and what stood in its way. In the 15th century, Europe craved the riches of the East, spices, silk, and gold. Travelers like Marco Polo had returned with tales of Eastern kingdoms overflowing with treasure. But those goods came overland, along routes that were long, dangerous, and controlled by others. In 1453, the Ottomans seized Constantinople, tightening their grip on the old trade roads. Every middleman took a cut, and the price of Eastern goods climbed ever higher. So Europe's sailors began asking a daring question. Was there another way to reach Asia? Portugal bet on the south, creeping down the coast of Africa year after year, but one navigator from Genoa had a far bolder idea. His name was Christopher Columbus, born in the crowded port of Genoa around 1451. He had spent his life at sea, from the cold waters near Iceland to the Gold Coast of Africa. Educated Europeans already knew the Earth was a sphere. That was never the argument. The real question was how wide the ocean between Europe and Asia truly was. Columbus pored over maps by Ptolemy, Marco Polo, and the scholar Toscanelli. From them, he concluded that Asia lay only a few thousand miles to the west. He was wrong. He had shrunk the planet and stretched Asia far too far east. The true distance was more than 4 times his guess, with an unknown ocean in the gap. In a cruel irony, his critics had the math right. Columbus would succeed only through sheer luck. But for him, the idea had become an obsession he could not let go. First, he carried his plan to the King of Portugal. The king's experts studied it and refused. The ocean, they warned, was far too wide. So Columbus turned to Spain, to the Catholic monarchs Isabella and Ferdinand. Their scholars agreed with Portugal's verdict. The voyage looked impossible, and Spain was distracted, locked in a long war to conquer Granada, the last Moorish kingdom. For 6 years, Columbus waited, trailing the royal court from town to town. Then, in January 1492, Granada fell, and the war was finally won. With their treasury freed, the monarchs at last said yes. He was promised grand titles and a tenth of all the riches he might find. On the 3rd of August 1492, 3 ships slipped out of the Spanish port of Palos, the Santa Maria, a heavy flagship, and 2 nimble caravels, the Pinta and the Nina. They paused in the Canary Islands to repair and resupply, then turned toward the open sea. Ahead lay nothing charted on any map, weeks of water in every direction. Night after night, the same stars wheeled overhead, each dawn the same endless blue. As the days dragged on, the crew grew restless. No land, no end in sight. Columbus, it is said, kept 2 logs, telling the men they'd sailed less than they truly had. They spotted birds and drifting branches, signs of land that came to nothing. Whispers of mutiny spread. Some sailors begged to turn the ships around. Columbus asked them for just a few more days. Then, in the black early hours of October 12th, a lookout aboard the Pinta cried out, "Tierra, land!" Ahead lay a small island in the Bahamas. Columbus named it San Salvador. He waded ashore, raised the royal banner, and claimed the land for Spain. Watching from the trees were people who had lived here for countless generations, the Taino. Certain he had reached the East Indies, Columbus called them Indians. The name would echo for centuries, born from a mistake he never understood. He sailed on, convinced that Cuba was the coast of China and Japan lay just beyond. On Christmas night, the Santa Maria ran aground and had to be abandoned. From her timbers, the crew built a small fort and left some 40 men behind. In the spring of 1493, Columbus sailed home to a hero's welcome. He would cross the Atlantic 3 more times, reaching South and Central America. New crops, animals, and diseases now moved across the ocean in both directions. Yet to his dying day in 1506, he insisted he had found the edge of Asia. He never grasped that he had stumbled onto 2 entire continents. The land wouldn't even bear his name. Mapmakers called it America after Amerigo Vespucci. His voyages flung open the door to European empires and remade both worlds forever. But here is the twist that history loves to forget. Columbus was not the first European to reach the Americas. 500 years earlier, longships had already crossed the cold northern Atlantic. Around the year 1000, the Norse sailed from Greenland toward an unknown western shore. Their leader, the sagas say, was Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red. They named the land Vinland and raised timber houses on a wild, misty coast, and that settlement was real. Its remains lie at Lanse Ox Meadows in Newfoundland. It is the only confirmed Norse site in the Americas, dated to almost exactly the year 1000. So Columbus changed the world in 1492, but he was 5 centuries too late to be first.